Hello. It is Tuesday. I am aware it is 2:40 in the afternoon, and it's normally Thursday when you see me here. Pretty much, um, I was doing some math calculations about some of the scores from this morning's workout, and I thought maybe I'll just do my live today because I've got a busy back half of the week this week, and I thought, sure, why not? Now, the problem with me going live today is that Justin wasn't here, so I don't really have the light I normally have, and that's probably why my face looks a little darker than it does normally. But essentially, what I'm going to do is talk through a couple of different, I wasn't sure what to title this, like using maths to make your workouts better, or getting fitter with maths, or like letting your ego set aside RX weights is actually a good thing for you. So I'm just going to use this live today because I was going to write this out and text it to Matt, and I thought maybe he'll just listen to this and I can use this as a way to describe to more than one person how scaling a workout or reducing the weight on a workout can actually elicit a greater fitness or a greater what's the word I'm looking for, like a greater result in what they're looking for in their class that day. Even though Justin's not here, hey, Juzzy, are those lights in your van? Not that it matters now. I've worked something out, but that's my question for you. I set everything else up. Look at me go. Bike and bench for life for Wombat. Yes. When Wombat doesn't know what to do, or even when he does know what to do, or even when he knows what he should do, he still chooses bike and bench, and that's why it's bike and bench for life. Anyway, today's workout in class was 7 rounds for time, 21 strict press, and 21 ab mat sit-ups. Now, there was a prescribed weight for the strict press, 35 and 25. I'm just going to use it along with a couple of the members of the 6 a.m. class. And in fairness, the first class of the day is generally the guinea pig. It's like, if you're not really sure how this is going to play out, it is certainly harder. Well, there's less results to work off to know whether or not you can handle the prescribed workout or not. Now, essentially, it is or was, well, it's too late now. Lights are in the pocket of the backpack in my office. Well, I'll know for not next time. What I'm going to do with this workout, 7 rounds, 21 strict press, 21 ab mat sit-ups, 35 kilos for the guys, 25 kilos for the ladies. Like, it sounds like a light load until you realize you're doing 147 reps of each movement. Now, maybe that's not so bad with ab mat sit-ups, but when you're considering doing 21 strict press over and over again for 7 rounds, with an 18-minute time cap, I should put that there. Time cap, 18 minutes. Target, 13 to 15 minutes. Essentially what this means is the target is maintain 2-minute rounds, and the time cap was 18 minutes. So that was, hey, rounds can't really take more than 2.5 minutes to get this work done. Now, what I'm going to do is just talk through Matt's score at the end and talk through Tux's score at the end, and how potentially they could have got a better workout to get closer to the intended stimulus, which is that target time of 13 to 15 minutes, with the ability to perform their strict press closer to 3 sets with not a requirement on so much rest in between, because there's quite a lot of muscular fatigue this morning, and how they could have adjusted the weights of the strict press. And obviously, in hindsight, it's very easy to give this guidance. In the moment, you know, you can never be very sure where someone's muscular capacity might be at. But I'll just do some math equations to help anyone that's watching this understand how scaling the weight is not necessarily a bad thing, and potentially scaling the weight down from RX is actually better for you for your fitness than slogging away at what the RX weight is. So a couple of scores here. I'm going to start with Matt. What you can see here for Matt, and I guess what I should say is when it comes to CrossFit put out a way to evaluate work capacity. So CrossFit, like fitness, work capacity across broad time and modal domains. What is work capacity? And CrossFit, it says just like quantified by the formula for power. I think that's a standard thing in sports science and sort of like the EP space. It's like your work capacity, or the power equation is quite a standard thing. So power equals force times distance over time, or divided by time, or power is work divided by time. So how much work or how much force did you create divided by the time it took you equals power output. And that can change. Power output can differ depending on, what am I trying to say? When you choose appropriately for the intended stimulus, your power output can be greater than if you choose a weight that might be too heavy for you. Let me get those words out. So just using Matt's score as an example. So of those 7 rounds we had this morning, Matt did 5 rounds plus 36 reps. What that means is he finished 5 full rounds. He got 21 of his strict press done, followed by 15 of his GHD. So by the end of this workout, he had done 126 strict press and 120 GHD. So Matt chose to increase the difficulty of the ABAT sit-up movement to GHDs this morning. And these were his total reps in the 18 minutes. So he got capped out 5 rounds plus 36. He did not finish the intended work within the time cap, and certainly wasn't close to the time. Now, what I wanted to do here, strict press, 126 reps at 35 kilos. That's what this calculation here is. 4,410 kilos shifted, and a power equation, because it took him 18 minutes to move that much weight. So weight or work completed divided by the time, which was 18 minutes, has a power equation of 245. Now, what I wanted to do from this is demonstrate that if Matt had decreased the weight on the strict press, so let's throw this down here, and let's say he finished all 147 reps, but with a lighter weight, 30 kilos, he would have shifted the same amount of weight over the workout total, even though the reps are different, but that's because the weight was slightly lighter. So this one's 35 kilos. He moved it 126 reps for 4,410. This one's 30 kilos. He moved it for all of the reps, which also means he would have done more GHDs by the end of the workout. So that's greater work completed there too. Now, this is at 30 kilos. What we would have presumed here is Matt would have finished this work because the load was lighter, so he could move faster through it in less than 18 minutes. So let's be kind and say he shifted the same amount of total load, 4,410, but he did it faster because he finished the workout instead of getting capped out. He then has increased his power output for that workout, just as a way to give it an example. Now, if that weight had been 30 kilos, there is the potential that Matt could have found himself flirting with the target time, which is the intended stimulus for that workout. So again, if he did all of that load in 15 minutes, he would have increased his power output once again. So that is just, I wanted to essentially just use this as a way to describe that going lighter than the prescribed weight isn't necessarily a bad thing. You shouldn't get caught up in the RX load in a workout just because that's the prescribed load. Generally speaking, it should be programmed for the best, scale for the rest. And in particular, this workout was a staple workout for Rich Froning to do. So if Rich Froning's performing this workout at 35 kilos, I would hazard that should a regular gym goer also be attacking that workout at the same load that Rich Froning would? Let me see if I can find it online. Should have pulled this up beforehand. Nope. Oh, well, we'll just have to imagine what that's like. Now, I'd use the same example. So, sorry, let me go back to Matt. So if Matt had scaled the weight to 30 kilos, I assume he would have finished that workout. He wouldn't have got capped out. He would have been able to progress through the strict press more consistently without having to rest so much. He might have been able to do it in less sets, or at least if not in less sets than he did, he would have been able to pick the bar up and continue on again faster. And in doing that, he would have done more reps of that barbell, and by default he would have done more GHDs by the end of that workout too. With 30 kilos compared to 35, he would have shifted the same amount of weight, potentially in that faster time. And like I said, even if we're being not very generous to Matt, even if he only finished it in 17 minutes, it is still more work completed in a faster time. So work capacity in the time available, or moving large loads, doesn't have to be the weight that is large, but the total volume, long distances quickly. What's the long distance? Well, today we're going from the shoulders to overhead, and how quickly can we complete those 7 rounds? And ideally, quickly is 13 to 15 minutes. So if we're talking about that 14-minute time frame, 2 minutes per round for this workout. Now, the thing that some quite regularly people don't know is when, with any movement, but shoulders an example for this one, when do my shoulders burn out with muscular fatigue? And it's like, that's a hard thing to gauge early on, but it's certainly, once it hits you, there's no coming back from it. And I was saying to the 9:30 class, like, those people that chose a heavier weight than their muscles could handle across the space of that many reps in this workout found that they dropped down in weight. And even after they dropped down in weight, even that lighter weight felt very, very heavy to them. Whereas if they'd started with that lighter weight, it would have felt challenging but doable across the space of the workout. Now, I use Tux as an example too, because at the end of the workout, he had also completed the exact same amount of strict press as Matt had, 126 reps, because he finished 6 full rounds with no reps into the next round. And Tux completed ATMAT sit-ups too. So the same theory here still applies. Those 4,410 kilos were shifted in the space of that 18-minute time cap. So he got capped out. Now, if Tux had have gone down, obviously, to 30 kilos in similar to Matt here, that just would show, again, essentially greater power output or greater work capacity across that time. Now, the interesting thing is, it's obviously easy to do math after the fact, but it is a way to better understand your own fitness, or how your body responds, or whether loads are appropriate for you. So we could run a similar test with, or a similar calculation. Let me just copy this one down here. If, now 35, if we had, say, done 25 kilos instead for 147 reps, that would have been 3,675 kilos shifted. Now, that is less than what was shifted in that first part. But let's say that 25 kilos meant that Tux was able to finish the workout in 13 minutes. That is a greater demonstration of power than doing the 6 rounds at the RX weights in the 18 minutes. Let's do 14 minutes, still better. 15 minutes, right. So at the end, if Tux could have finished his workout at 25 kilos in 15 minutes, he would have had the same power output by the end of this workout as what he had 35 kilos for 126 reps. So it's just interesting after the fact to go back and look at something like that and actually plug in the math. If you had a workout where the weight was the limiting factor for you and you were resting significantly long in between, because every time you put that bar down, and I don't know for sure what Matt and Tux ended up with in terms of like what their sets were, but let's say for the 21 reps, they were doing them 3 reps at a time. So they're putting that barbell down 7 times in the space of doing those 21 reps. And every time they put it down, who's to know if you are having unless you're holding yourself really accountable to it, 5, 10, 15 seconds rest in between those sets. So let's assume their fitness is really good and they put it down for 5 seconds across those 7 sets. That's still 35 seconds of additional time in that workout. Whereas if it had have been a 7-7-7, the bar goes down 3 times. It could be 15 seconds of rest there. You've already saved yourself 20 seconds in resting in that window of time just by choosing a weight that's appropriate for the workout stimulus, which is, hey, 3 sets on this barbell. Don't go unbroken in the first couple of rounds and then be so fatigued that you have to do 7 sets of 3 in those later rounds. Let's be consistent with 7-7-7 across this workout, or even an 8-7-6 across this workout, so that you can consistently pick that bar up with a structured amount of rest in between, not letting that blow out in any point. And that's sort of how doing math calculations, or understanding how, if the weight is heavier than what you can comfortably manage, how scaling really does have a greater impact on your fitness gains overall. So they were a couple of the discussions we had this morning, because obviously after 6 a.m., like I said, they're the guinea pigs. So it's like, it's a little harder to guide them in, hey, normally you could do an RX workout. So is this appropriate for you today? I'm not 100% sure. I don't know how good your shoulder endurance is versus, say, if it's a load for low rep cleans or even hitting snatches or something like that. Like, this is very specific muscular fatigue as opposed to just cardio fatigue or failures with lifts due to high heart rate, not necessarily muscular fatigue. So this is a great way to demonstrate, or to just go back and reflect on, could I have shifted the same amount of weight in a faster space of time using a lighter load? And the example for both Matt and Tux is, yes, today, if we had have scaled the weight to a 30 kilo strict press, it is very likely that the two of them would have completed the same total weight shifted, but the lighter load would have been able to shift faster and therefore greater power output by that point. Now, once we go through each class, like I said, 6 a.m.'s guinea pig, 7 a.m.'s we've got a little better idea, but there's still some like, I think I can, I reckon I could be able to, I should be able to. And then by 9:30, once they've seen a few scores, they start to understand, okay, these people that I normally use to help gauge my plan on my workout, this is what they did. That's making me really evaluate. And so by the time we get to 9:30 are great at going, okay, I'm going to bring the weight right down. I'm going to move as fast as possible, and I'm going to do it as quickly as possible. And that way, not only is the load allowing for greater fitness, but it's also allowing for limiting the impact under fatigue as to poor movement patterns or not. And so I guess that's me taking 20 minutes to explain what that looks like. Hopefully it makes sense to anyone that does watch it. If you have used this kind of strategy to work out in other workouts you've done before, whether or not it was useful. Like I said, a lot of the time it's easier to do this after the fact. If you did a workout where maybe you went heavier than you were, if you did a workout where you chose the RX load or a heavier weight than you might normally and you got capped out in that workout, what does that mean for? Could you calculate which weight would have been more beneficial for you, or potentially which rep range would have been more beneficial for you to still shift the same amount of weight by the end of the workout, but shift it faster than what you did? And so at the end of the day, shifting it faster would be finishing the 7 rounds for time, as opposed to getting capped out prior to those 7 rounds for time. And so how much power did you really generate today? What does that look like? And could you have been better? If you listened in at all, thank you. Because this was on my mind today, I probably Won't go live on Thursday unless there's something on my mind then. But like I said, I've got a busier back end of the week. So this is just a way to get another live in this week to keep that streak going of one a week. Of course, if you watch this after the fact and you have questions or you don't quite understand the equation, or even you're just like, hey, I don't want CrossFit to be harder than it already is. I don't want to have to do math. There's nothing, I'm not saying you have to do math. It's just another interesting way to better understand how scaling to meet the intended stimulus can advance your fitness faster than always attacking a workout RX. So with that in mind, have a great Tuesday or whatever day it might be when you watch this. Get after it. And if you've had an experience like this where you regret not scaling after the fact, or maybe not regret's the right word. Let's say you got capped out in a workout, and if you had have gone lighter, you would have finished and you would have done it faster and you would have got a better fitness effect from it. Comment that below. Otherwise, thanks so much for listening in, and I will see you next time.